Good afternoon, or it's just between good morning and good afternoon, and welcome. This is the last of the year's readings, and always one of the best and most pleasing. I want to thank all the poets today for being here. And this is also a time to thank Kristen Sprogna, the coordinator of Lunch Poems, for a year's work bringing us this work, making sure the poets get here, making sure they have a place to stay, making sure they get back to the airport if they're from out of town. And she's already working on it for next year. We're going to have another exciting set of people coming. So Kristen, thank you so much for your work, and to all the Lunch Poems volunteers, to Alex over there, Warren, who lets us use so graciously our poems, and is on the committee that meets each year to look at the budgets and figure out how we're going to do it and who we're going to invite, and his good sense and generosity just have make this possible. We're very grateful. Also, Dave Dewar from the library, who's helped so much to make this happen. Introducing the poets today is going to be John Choctaw. John is, by reputation, the most gifted of all poetry teachers on the campus, and he's the author. No sound? Let's get the sound right for you guys. How's that? No? Testing, help. Itch there, oops.
Can you not touch anything for a second?
Somewhere there, just.
Oh, we have the professionals.
Huh? Is it on now? It's on now. Okay, we're all set. And the sound, if I stand back here, works, tilted this way. Thank you so much. I was about to say that John Choctaw, who's a wonderful poet, a brilliant critic of poetry, an amazing teacher. That is, it seems to me, every time that I have a creative writing class and see the work of people and look and say, who have you worked with? They say, John Choctaw. He's just a brilliantly generous presence on the campus. So I'm going to sit in the back because I have to go teach a class. I'm going to listen to you for as long as I can. And thank you so much. We'll see you again next year. Thank you, poets, for being here. Here's John Choctaw.
Of course, a poetry reading wouldn't really be a poetry reading without an absent presence, which we may have if only he doesn't show up. So let me begin with the calling of the first name to see if Jonathan Adams is actually absent. Yes, Jonathan Adams has fulfilled his function for us today. Godspeed and good luck, Jonathan. I will continue now with Maryam Afak, who is a senior in her final semester, majoring in English. She's been part of June Jordan's Poetry for the People for the past year and a half. Yes. And is a student teacher poet in that program. She's been published in numerous anthologies, most recently Voices of Resistance, Muslim Women Speak on War, Faith, and Sexuality. Maryam.
Hi, everyone. So the title of my poem today is What It's Like to Be a Muslim Girl for Those Who Aren't and Some Who Are. It's an emulation of Patricia Smith's poem titled What It's Like to Be a Black Girl for Those Who Aren't. It is waking up one day to just arrived breasts beneath your shirt that cause more discomfort to everyone else than you. It's carrying these breasts like post-it note reminders for mom and dad that you are ready to embrace hijab. It is being aware of each and every strand of hair on your head and exactly what it is doing at any given moment of any day of the year. Whether it's covered beneath a scarf, under a head wrap, whether you show bangs or all your hair, you must be prepared. Are we gone? Okay. No? Should I continue? Okay. Should I continue or should I stop? Hello? Okay. Should I start over? Okay. Okay. It is waking up one day to just arrived breasts beneath your shirt that cause more discomfort to everyone else than you. It is carrying these breasts like post-it note reminders for mom and dad that you are ready to embrace hijab. It is being aware of each and every strand of hair on your head and exactly what it is doing at any given moment of any day of the year. Whether it's covered under a scarf, beneath a head wrap, whether you show bangs or all your hair, you must be prepared for, why do you wear that? And why do you not wear it like that instead? It is having eloquent answers prepared while you do grocery, sit in a literature class, ride the bus home, or have a conversation with your friend to questions like, do all Muslims marry young? Do you wear it while you sleep? What happens if I see your hair? It is being 18 and made to stand at San Jose's Mineta airport while the lady at the security checkpoint makes you remove your black velvet scarf and runs her metal detector cock all over your body, finally dragging it through your scarf, for who knows what explosives you have hidden under that veil. Her hands clutch the dark fabric as you wait, stripped, feeling naked in front of the midday airport crowd. It is putting your scarf back on, pinning it under your chin once more, and rejoining your family of immigrants who pretend that nothing happened, because what the fuck could they do if they decided to acknowledge your humiliation? It is not meeting anyone's eyes, because what are you looking for in your father's eyes, in your brother-in-law's eyes, in the eyes of your mother? It is sucking your tears back through your lids, because what use is it to let them fall? You will only have to answer more questions as to why you're crying.
I'd like to introduce Natasha Aurora next, and maybe could you raise your hand? Thank you. Natasha writes and teaches poetry with June Jordan's Poetry for the People. Yes, she would love to meet other math majors. I used to be a math major. Maybe that'll change your mind, who write poetry on the margins of their problem sets or proofs on the margins of their poems. That's great, Natasha.
Poem for Dolly Massey, who is my aunt. My mother passes me through her passenger side window toward my Masi in the driver's seat of the next lane, if you can call it a lane in Dili, where cars cramp together like cells of honeycomb, dripping with exhaust, where summer humidity soaks my forehead, where I taste air infused with dust, honks, syncopated shouts I can't understand on this visit to my mother's old home. But here, my Masi reaches for me, with manicured hands, cool and familiar as sips of rose water. 10 years later, these rose water hands will drag a suitcase through JFK International, where my Masi will step outside with no winter coat, her husband limping behind her, his meat-slap foot wrapped to contain the odor of gangrene. New York taxi drivers will holler in her home tongue, remind her of miles from here to Dili. She will learn miles mean nothing, pennies and years mean everything, because the $10 bills she will receive for threading eyebrows will not buy a ticket home. She will wait and wait for a green card, pray for American doctors to keep their promise, save her husband's foot from amputation. She will sigh, Hey Bhagwan, oh God, under her breath in waiting rooms. Her hair will freeze on her first day of work. When her boss leaves the room, she will brush through iced curls with snow-numbed fingers, sighing, Hey Bhagwan, beside the heating vent. She will cook the best chole on Long Island, chide her son, change her husband's bandages, cry into the sing-song buzz of her daughter's voice on the telephone, and still wait and wait for her green card. She will stay with her cancer-ravaged aunt until her aunt's daughters blame her for the death. She will mourn, move out, set up a salon in the basement of her new home where we will sprawl on the couches, she and I, watching Deal or No Deal. She will tell me, that woman would be dumb not to risk it after coming this far. And only then will I see the copper wire strength that weaves vertebrae to vertebrae of my Masi's back, her nose held vertical during every Hey Bhagwan. But this comes later. Now, Dili twilight submerges a congested street where I tumble between cars, between windows, between women's hugs into my Masi's fresh-waxed forearms. I bury my face in henna-stained curls, memorize the precise wrinkles in her nose while she laughs, head tossed back as if we will drive this street forever.
Joseph Bush is here. Joseph is a longtime volunteer and a furniture craftsman living in Vacaville. Yes, his last name is Bush, for which he takes great pride. He is just glad that his mother didn't name him Adolf. And let me add that Joseph is one of the great names ever and one of the great stories in Genesis. Joseph.
Thanks. If I blow out the speakers, I'm just going to keep on reading, so don't stop for me. We're no longer between cats in our house. When you're married to a vet, those voids don't stay unfilled for very long. Cosmo. I tried for a poet's name. Nobody in the family liked Galway but me. And we did consider Hass. Sounded too much like hiss, and we didn't want Bob to be a bad influence on our cat. After this intro, you're going to think this poem is about a cat. It's not. It's going to be about a mouse. Since the cat's in the picture, I will dedicate the mouse poem to the cat. It's sort of a prayer of thanksgiving that I could imagine my cat actually giving for mice. The other thing I would say is that, believe me, the intro is longer than the poem. An epic poem about mice kind of goes against the whole concept of mouseness, so I'm going to make a small poem about it. The other thing I would say is that out of all the poems, there have been a lot of poems written about the wee beastie. My favorite is by Theodore Rothke, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He did one about the meadow mouse, called The Meadow Mouse, and he talks about the little Quaker. And I can't imagine a better line to describe it than a little Quaker. So I know my whole poem couldn't come close to capturing it like he did in those couple of words. So I'm going to come at the mouse from a different angle. Hunger eyes a mouse. There is more to mouse than meat that meets the eye. If only we could draw a line around it and make a mouse out of what we drew in. But as the meadow finds its form between the forest and the stream, so the meadow mouse takes its shape from all sides, pressing in. The snake and fox and feral cat the owl by night and the hawk by day, these are what define a mouse, the hunger arrayed against it. Between one flea and another lies a soft spot with a quick pulse and a sharp breath. Between plate and fork rests a wafer of fur, a dollop of wits, a teaspoon of whisker. Hunger taps the plate, and out from under a mouse takes flight. The bird wheels, and a mouse turns. The fox leaps, and a mouse dives. The snake pours itself down a hole, and a mouse is displaced out of the hole. In the snake, more snake. Out of the snake, more mouse. Again and always, the hunger. Forever and ever, a mouse.
Monica Chen, AKA Mei Ling Chen, is a disabled student majoring in East Asian language and culture. She is of Chinese descent but was born in Vietnam. She is a member of the Jinshan Poets and Artists Association, formerly the San Francisco Poets and Artists Association, Zhongshan Literary Association, as well as Chinese American Writers Association in San Francisco. She has been published widely in Chinese American newspapers and publications. Selected poems have won poetry contests in San Francisco, including a recent second prize on the topic of Chinese tradition on filial piety. She was nominated by the editors of Vagabond Multilingual Literary Journal. Monica.
Hello, everyone. I must admit first to everybody is that I'm not very good in writing the poems in English, but all my poems are written in Chinese. So here's a poem that I'm going to read to everybody today. is about the title of the poem is called "The Flowers in the Mirror." Okay, I'm going to first read it in Chinese first to see how everybody like it, how you like the sound of it. 日醉思潮夜夢成，似真而幻分不清。用心細看紅塵鏡，萬象皆由一念生。So here the translation in my poem. Trend of thought accumulated at night. No, I'm sorry, let me restart again. Trend of thought accumulated during the day comes alive in dream at night. Reality and illusion both seem alike. Take a closer look at the mirror of the world of mortals. One single thought brings myriad phantasm at a light. This poem is written in the Chinese called Shi style, which is only 4 sentences, but with the rhythm at the end of the word. That's all. Thank you very much.
Aubrey Ferrera, Aubrey's here, was nominated by a member of the creative writing faculty who says she is a terrific poet. And that creative writing member certainly knows what he is talking about when he said that. She is graduating with a degree in English and plans to roam the United States this summer in a bus. Aubrey.
Hello. This poem is called Calculating Forces. The mechanical engine projects itself onto the faces in front of mine. The gears and chains frustrate my eyes. I am a stranger and friendless. The men across the table are outwardly loud and blank, but that is me and the machine. those things churning in my golden veins, the ghost of chains in the river, something is growing. In its wake, I follow for any traveler in his right mind that might give me some light, but everyone falls back as strangers in a blank place. I pass myself in a window, shining like videotape pulled out of ruts worn deep by time and habit. At first, I feel high at the sight. Then I fall down into mud and time to think about the mud and the engine in the leather jug.
Jeremy Graves is a junior majoring in interdisciplinary studies. He is an intern for Lunch Poems and coordinates the Berkeley Poetry Review reading series for young up-and-coming Bay Area poets. He is a 2007 recipient of the Cook Prize in Poetry. In his spare time, he enjoys playing the piano, hiking, and traveling. Jeremy.
The poem I'm going to read is called Muscle Beach. It's in Venice Beach, and it's an interesting place. It's well known for its bodybuilding contests, among other things. And they have outdoor gyms, so if you're walking along the boardwalk on the beach, you can see these guys working out. So that's what this poem is sort of about. Muscle Beach. Variations on the perfect specimen burn in the afternoon sun, writhing beneath barbells, expanding in sudden bursts of gravity against will. At the edge of the boardwalk, passers-by watch a man lift 185 pounds with one arm. He growls, then lets it fall as numbness froths from his wrist, up through his shoulder into the right side of his neck. Such relief is frequent enough, though he knows what isn't suffered means something lost. Deflation in the pectorals, a flaw of softness metastasizing wherever his eyes won't quite grip, as through the ideal projected from a locker room mirror. But it's nearly impossible to see. The certainty prized is never your own, and his shadow, it keeps thinning east toward the brink of exhaustion. Thank you.
Marissa Libon is, I know, right? Oh, of course. Is a graduate student in the English department studying medieval literature. She works on memory and nostalgia in medieval England. It's a fantastic topic. I love it. She is a 2007 recipient of the Cook Prize in Poetry.
Hi. This is a poem not about how we remember the Middle Ages, but about how we remember California. And it starts with the movie The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which was made in the 1940s and starred Mr. Humphrey Bogart. So, grayish California. The Treasure of the Sierra Madre was on again the other night, and I must have seen that movie 100 times at least. And all I can remember is someone dies in the end. Maybe Humphrey, of treachery, the kind you only catch when you're up in the mountains where you shouldn't be, looking for treasure, because no one looking for treasure has ever found anything but treachery. And the amazing thing is that anyone would go into the mountains with anyone named Humphrey. But it's hard to tell what they're thinking in black and white, and just what the weather's like wherever they are. And I'm thinking I should have been my grandmother in the 40s on a movie set in California. And by California, I mean Los Angeles, because I don't think other parts of the state existed until the 50s, when Jimmy starred in the picture based on the book filmed on location in Salinas. But The only way to tell it's California, and by California I mean Los Angeles, is by the grayish palm trees and the convertible cars. Even with the sound on the set all the way down, you can tell they're convertible because all the tops are down. Like the sound, the men drive with their hands at 9 and 3 and look straight ahead while they drive and talk, or drive and don't talk. And you notice, even though they're in California, pine trees pass by past the legal speed limit, and you get suspicious, think low budget. But you can tell it's hot because the men get out of their cars and leave the doors open while they take off coats, unbutton cuffs, roll up sleeves, like they're saying, there's some business to be done around here and I'm gonna do it, mister. But all they do is shut the doors and walk across the street to see about a girl who sells shirts in her father's store and who buys her grayish lipstick from drugstores like all of the other California women while wearing signet rings and hats that are darker gray than their lips, holding their coats in their gloved hands because it's too hot for coats in California, under the sun and under the lights in the market, buying formula for the baby and oranges for the family. But now you're thinking, color had to be invented before supermarkets in Northern California on account of the neon and tomatoes. And if you're not thinking of Alan by now, go and find out and come back, because I imagine he had a hoary beard, much like the treacherous one in the Sierra Madre with Humphrey, where I still can't remember who got it in the end. Thank you.
Pablo Lopez is a graduating English major. He enjoys sharing breath with strangers. He is a 2007 recipient of the Young Memorial Prize in Poetry and will be pursuing an MFA in poetry at Brown University this fall. Pablo.
First of all, thanks to all the wonderful people here at Lunch Poems. All light from collapsing. Where would I be without black and its absence? Nights in January are vaguely different. The color in and out of focus. No weather comparatively. The empty rooms. Home and travels of expectation. Whitish clouds and others, the shape of happy and sad in tow. Observing the absent take shape, the ache turns in on itself. Tenderness, migratory patterns about as they do, unaware of their middle. Thoughts of places, not the places, but their absence, a beautiful hill. On the beautiful absence is where you and I part, familiar as parting. Two ways of letting go, like birds and birds. The intimacy of ice water. What generosity the night imparts. It's never still or always is. Were we familiar in other places delineated? Were we ever ephemeral? There were browning birds between us, always and never defined their arc. Time changes a little, sleep becomes newer frequently. In more moments than men, the wars happening like dogs. Intimacy, a lesson learned in painting on public spaces. Tonight, I finally feel like myself. I hope you are there too. There's something missing from the robotics of trees. Inherently, the leaf, the leafing, and the thing left in the sun. I, that is to say, hungrier than yesterday. Can this last much longer? Time, the shadow in front and the shadow behind filling stations. The dogs and their sleeping patterns depend on one another, mostly. in newer ways, wars, and other modifications for everyday familiarities, in acquiring so many dry goods, all I can carry, winters and moons. There's another place, not this one, that feels most like living. Thank you.
Alexander MacArthur is about to graduate with a major in English. She was born and raised in the Philadelphia area. She currently lives in San Francisco and plans to continue living there. That's a nice plan. She hopes to pursue a career in any of the following fields. Employers welcome to interview her: public relations, publishing, and journalism. But whatever she does, she will always write poetry.
I just wrote this poem the other day, so I might stutter a bit. I'm not familiar with how the rhythm goes. And it's a eulogy, so it makes me a bit nervous. It's called View from an Airplane. The image of the town we grew up in, gray as the winter, but it was spring, was borne away by the mist of higher altitudes as I ascended through the air. You are not there, not in that landscape. Maybe you were higher, in that world far away, where the clouds of the high skies form castles and mountains where you might frolic. But no matter how beautiful that world was, it was too simple for your radiance. No, you were in the west, where mist descended upon earth. The sky was colored pink, and stunned and nullified the despair I felt in losing you. In that place, even the rain contained no aura of depression. The beams that glistened off the land were like a new mother, proud of what she just made. And in that world, you gave me the comfort you had always wanted to give, but could not in this life. You told me that the cup of sorrow was carved with joy, and in this world I'll search for it, with you as my guidance, my muse, my sister eternal.
James May was raised in Clove Valley, upstate New York. He discovered California after graduating from high school. He has spent the past 7 years here working as, this says, a chief, a ski patroller, and eventually as a student at Berkeley. James enjoys writing about themes of place and nature, childhood, and the imaginative life, as well as the craft of writing itself. James May.
Excuse my spelling, Professor Shopjaw. I'd like to thank the Rosenberg family for supporting the arts and poetry and writers, and Professor Shopjaw for helping me with my poetry this semester. I'm heading back east in a few weeks to live for at least a year, and this is a poem about making discoveries in California. It's called The Law of Frost. I did not leave my home expecting frost, but there, at the bend of the canyon, against a creek too warm for white blue sleep, I came upon it. As a boy, I never considered the frost. Morning meadow after morning meadow, I tromped over its unspoken whiteness. Never counted crystals, never studied spicules, never figured how it fastens to the veins and edges of discarded leaves. Frost was because I knew it to be. From far away, years away, I knew this place as a green land, warm, western, without winter, without the memory of frost. This morning, though, an unexpected milling, brittle ground like autumn cattail dusted in lime, breaking beneath the weight of feet. The sound of cold breath rising in early morning, the sound of hands huddled, aiding the season's ailing sun. The law of frost has fooled me, being found in a place I knew it not to be. Thank you.
Having reached the middle of the alphabet, I'm going to slide back to the beginning and re-mention Jonathan Adams, who is a legal studies and philosophy major who will be graduating in a few weeks. Congratulations. Jonathan is the current Public Relations and Marketing Chair of Phi Alpha Delta Co-Ed Pre-Law Fraternity International. He is also in his second year of teaching with June Jordan's Poetry for the People and hopes to continue teaching writing next year.
What's going on? Sorry I'm late. It tends to happen with me. Anyway, this is breakup poem number 3 for Rosie. Heartbreak steals all my words for 3 months, no poems, no nothing, scribbled on loose leaf sheets in an attempt to make sense of you gone after 3 years. It snatches away the familiar of your flesh from my lips, sudden like light blown from bulbs at the first switch flick. Tips a full bottle of Tylenol to my lips, pours a Patron chaser and tempts a drunken wave goodbye to my life. Sends tears random, spilling down in class or at dinner among unsuspecting friends or on a lonely BART train ride home. Heartbreak never says goodbye, while you left me nothing but a voiceless dial tone. It never even looked in my direction again. Thank you.
Jack Morgan, is a founding member of the Trainwreck Union. Jack has lived all over the world, but has been back in the US of A for 3 years. Jack Morgan is a scholar and a gentleman, we're sure. He was the recipient of the 2007 Judith Stronach Prize in Poetry. Jack Morgan.
I don't have anything clever to say because I'm not very clever. My poem's called Self in 2 parts. Self, part the first. Tug collar, down neck, shoulders on, push, too high, too heavy, too catch, too fall. Collar up, shoulders push, friends down, too neck. Heavy tug, fall 2, catch, shoulders 2, bite the air, close eyes, push. For what it did to you, what we've said, how we've said it, how it did it, while people stand for pavement with their tired wives and peppermint. To us, tug down, bite down, shoulder on, push. Self, part the second. Wash up the spotty tide, the blacker the sin, the hotter the water, ash into water with basalt fish and yellow roses, salt into water, salt into lungs, teeth into salt, fingertips salt, salt lick the deer, salt street lips, green sun water. She scoops into the old box for glass and lungs. No one's whistled the same since. These stones have been right here since. My skin has tasted salty since tips of antlers licked in the last deer war when teeth tore lungs with rock salt. I looked over the balcony and sent ashes to their graves. Their skirts were yellow. It was green on tree soldiers. Palsy head as she thrust her finger and whistled. A bell and a dog cried. The air was almost water. I could swim 7 flights in the spotty tide, wash up at her dear feet, put on a shirt, tug collar, lick lips, shoulder on. Thank you.
John Morgan, where is John? Is a Lunch Poems volunteer studying chemical engineering. He loves to play music and has never been published except for in high school. He is interested in the universe.
You guys are you're all really good at writing poetry. Okay, call this the Mad Fingers on Self-Appreciation. Sad lingers in mad fingers, so dupe the people and climb the steeple, up the path, so God you are. Please sound the keys and play the breeze until what can be forgot is forgotten, and all they remember is you and those hands and those sounds you made, your very own telltale heart, that dirty confession, a repression, a regression, sophisticated, proud, ambitious, elitist, who can strike only one tone. Your melancholy is old, more of a Helencholy. Applaud, please, at the newest spectacle. Meet the original, unoriginal, aboriginal. From the man that gave you wind in your sails comes the all-new, whirling, twirling wind in your sails. Please, start the band and toot the horn and make haste with it. The leaves will blow and waves will flow. For the all-new, whirling, twirling wind in your sails is the best kind of cotton candy dandy potato sack beast pancake batter mixing head full frontal hazmat attack shack rack flack redact intact react recharge revolt dolt and sold to the highest bidder, the man with the madly sadly fingers, maker of the one and only cold blown sound that lingers.
I was wondering if the mic was going to make it through the entire reading. It made it through most. Do we want a technical adjustment, or where's our inviting technician? While we're waiting, I brought a few breakup poems I'd like to. No, thank you. Sarah Mumolo is a member of the Trainwreck Union, Bay Area Poetry Collective International. I added that last word. And a Lunch Poems volunteer. She will begin an MFA in poetry at St. Mary's in the fall. Sarah.
All right. I'd like to thank Kristen and Lunch Poems for the opportunity to volunteer. Nor'easter tracks. A fallout from your embryonic canopy, and that shape molding aware follows. Reason hails a match of initial dialectics, water-fed, off an illusion of easy conversation. Its pulsing, frustration bursts the scar of impenetrable. Hallucinations bursting forth and peering into. The outside based the seconds off a sign meeting, that adulterous novice. Of sign memory, clutching future walks along Williamsburg Bridge. Our meta-language of chords or line, damp with urgency for any correlation. That figure collapses to droplet the flooring and grenades into an electric skyline. Its shower of twitching I-ams you diagram with bobs of the head. An orchestrated exit via this monotone tunnel. The destroyed lamb and found razor blades etches a fabric letter upon a subway seat. Thank you.
Sam Pitman. Sam is an interdisciplinary studies field major who examines the various ways personal identities travel, interact with, and help shape one another. He is currently creating his ISF honors thesis, an autobiographical installation piece, including poems, prose, and photographs. Sam was nominated by a creative writing faculty member. Sam.
So this is going in my thesis. It's called positive. It was pretentious of me to hang a sign on my back, "Help a boy out of cries," when the real photographer, released 14 years prior, was taking his first shots of just my pelvic region, really only of the tongue, as I thought of board games. I was rather precocious at 8 years after I was released, to have learned so much about barter by playing Monopoly, or wishing for such a game I believed or did not believe I'd have a shot at, and to know never to twist my head around. Rather than being too loud, I was made to choose only a sheet for the backdrop, then to wrap all but the head with it for full body shots, taken by the lenses behind me, so I thought the least contribution I could make was to get one with burn holes. It was rather naive of me to offer Baltic Avenue for the negatives back, but I was concerned, until now, with receiving, not giving notice, that it would appear as if I really could not see anyone taking any shots, and that I'd prefer to pose stillborn.
Josefa Raz is a first-year student in the GTU UC Berkeley Joint Doctoral Program in Jewish Studies. Her book, In Exchange for Homeland, was published by Swan Scythe Press in 2004. Her poetry and fiction have been published in Ziziva, Glimmer Train, and Tikkun magazine. Josefa is a 2007 recipient of the Cook Prize in Poetry.
Thank you. So the poem I'm going to read is part of a conversation. The title of the poem is After 10 Years, I Tell an American Boy About the Army. But after working on it for a while, I realized that it's also a conversation with other poems that I've written and have been published about being Israeli and being in the army and being part of a sort of occupational machine, and a lot about sort of the interaction between Israelis and Palestinians. And so I wrote a lot about that in my first book. And now as I'm sort of moving on and thinking about things in different ways and sort of theorizing as I'm in a doctoral program, I'm starting to think about things in a different way. So the poem works on a few different levels in terms of conversations. That's a very theoretical introduction to hopefully a less theoretical poem. So the title. After 10 years, I tell an American boy about the army. When we lived in caravans outside of Jericho, the girls wore their bras in the shower, rubbed them with soap. There was choking cake for breakfast and dinner. We strolled around a single palm tree, holding each other's elbows in the mineral sunset. Then Siberia. My hair started falling out. A mouse or rat in the bathroom. Contraband sandwiches of sardines slathered in mustard. The guards outside the compound are drunk, fire their guns in the air. First cunnilingus feels like lace, with the winter breeze coming through the window. The town is surrounded by cemeteries, grape arbors. I know, I've taken out the headlines, the conflict, what you really want to know, but it's only in order to show you my girl body, the one under the dirty khaki uniform, the one under my father's grief and sorrow, one day becoming alive.
Jennifer Reimer. Jennifer grew up in the borderlands of Southern California. She received a BA in English from NYU and an MFA in writing from the University of San Francisco. She is a second-year graduate student in the Department of Comparative Ethnic Studies. Jennifer studies American ethnic writing and cultural studies. She was nominated by a member of the creative writing faculty.
Thank you. I'm going to read 3 short pieces from a longer prose piece called Dreams of Departure. If we are to discuss a problem, we should start from reality and not from definitions. Take a bucket of water, for instance. Where is it to be raised if not from the ground? What was sudden? Drying dirt. Rain buried seeds. No, you said, it was birds, an accident of nesting. There is absolutely no such thing as love or hatred without reason or cause. Every night we say we are too tired. Rain breaking surfaces. We sleep on opposite sides, dreams of petaled light. A list of useful objects, stones, wood, bones, shells, things, a complex of things for understanding the structure of species. We watch the walls, where a spider conducts operations that resemble a weaver. These relations contain all that has disappeared into paint or air. As members of a working organism, we move without making noise, a power measured by its ghostly duration, now transparent, now immaterial. The things we've placed are not bound to us. We are the basis of all systems of plunder. You ask me to measure the distant roar of water from the stolen, a golden net for casting, an amber light for a remote sea. What takes decoding are processes of alignment, how bodies imagine, describe, and comprehend each other. Over time, our stories become contradictory, a work of art with nowhere to go. Here, an effective reading begins to get out of hand. Plot lines encircle us until we are bound to our intersections. What happens are a series of experiments and tactical interventions in longing. You say there's been too much in the same place at the same time. It's not futile to emphasize the daring adventure that has left us breathless for 10 years. We've already encountered the central role of discourse in camouflaging intent, and it's too early to say whether this will change. In the meantime, we approach mythology with a certain apprehension. Dreams of corridors are our labyrinths of regret. Thank you.
Elizabeth Marie Young. Liz, where? Sorry, everything is silhouetted. Is a graduate student in the comparative literature department, where she is writing a dissertation on Catullus and lyric translation. She is also working on several poetry books, including a collaborative fantasy epic called Elf Pit with Train DeVore. Cool. She was a winner of this year's Eisner Award in poetry.
Hi. So the poem I'm going to read is a profoundly anti-historical account of Julius Caesar's death. And it's a little bit long for this point, but there's a murder in it, so hang in there. It's called A Phantom Etymology of the Ides of March. Caesar could take his little finger, lift it deftly to his head, and bring a room of soldiers to their knees. Effeminacies dead. Why was it wonderful? The Whistler gals are lovely, pale, but like your mom, they are too gloomy. 4 p.m. It's time to share your thoughts with all your friends. Who's first? Oh, me. I'm sick of all the pagans and their polyamorous, undead endogenously hempen fold away the henna dripped into a homicidal flight of mulish urge and fuzz and spume. Well, I say no to insects singing without words. Frankly, the trees, our umbrellas, are too flimsy. Oddment, funk, spud awkward as our hero tries to poke fun at the shapeliness of movement. He clasps his gyroscope
and bores a gimlet hole into the zeitgeist that will seep like an old lizard through the cockney, ein, zwei, drei, the corkscrew brandished like a candlestick, its blue flame almost lovingly intent upon the patch of grass beneath the sundial. The dust has settled, and Augustus, you are with us, but the shabby pigs disturb the pox. They say your uncle was unnerved by such grammatical disjunctions. He liked his proper nouns to sit politely in the Senate House. Their murder instruments were rustling in the silence, something lost and far from home. The imperator was distracted by the lizard, and he raised a finger to the lithe and slimy patch of cells that fringed his head, a tu brute, radiating Hollywood. Of course, he said it best in Shakespeare, where his mimsy was assured of trilobite, his own the saddest music in the world. But was it really wonderful? The vortex wondered, dead, dead, dead. Ideas were green and ever-rustling murder, edible.
Jacob Young. Jacob arrived at Cal as a junior transfer in the fall of 2005 and will graduate this spring with a degree in rhetoric. He has been writing poetry for several years and is proud to have his first published poems appear in the Berkeley Poetry Review, which is right over here for those of you who are interested in purchasing a copy. Jacob.
Thank you. Maybe the introduction should have had a little more and said Jacob Young is not fluent in Urdu or any other language in which ghazals are typically written, and he's also not a history major, but he nevertheless tried to put himself into the head of a Roman looking forward to tomorrow without really knowing what it will look like on its far side, and is entitled Tomorrow, Empire. Creation of this august Rome will be complete tomorrow, and all the toil of our hands will be complete tomorrow. There will be no more bread to sop up our sweat and blood. We relinquish our tools and go beg in the street tomorrow. Broad avenues that swell with waiting silence in their stones will roar in indignation under the slaves' feet tomorrow. The acanthus of Corinth and the volutes of Ionia will dazzle the 1,000 eyes of the rich and effete tomorrow. Gonfalons holding aloft the pride of public men are not, but a bluster attempting to cajole and entreat tomorrow. The voice of the crowd will hush and listen for the drums of war that will sound their beat tomorrow. Avatars of Olympia will render the Senate obsolete tomorrow. They lead the guard with fasces bundled thick as wheat tomorrow. The heirs of ancient Roma shall be known for their benevolence, to old Etruscans doing their best to be discreet tomorrow. The sky will stretch, pinned at the corners to cypress trees. Beneath it, the rooftops will bask in a brighter heat tomorrow. Rhea Silvia burned, that her sons would learn to be wolves. Now the sons of a hungering bitch yearn to eat tomorrow. The Tiber may crown the 7 hills in towering aqueducts, but the water jewelling the leaden pipes will be less sweet tomorrow. Poseidon will harness his horses to the chariots of Mars, for the tide of war has hit the shores and carries the fleet tomorrow. Sons of Hannibal, Alexander, and Jacob, be forewarned, for our god Janus will open but one gate to greet tomorrow.
Well, I want to thank the readers today. It was wonderful reading, and thank you, auditors, as well. Where would readers be without auditors? This concludes lunch poems for this year, very grandly so. Thank you very much.